Are you ready to get your health back but feel overwhelmed by the endless healthcare options? We believe God has called each of us to a specific assignment, and we want to make sure your body, mind, and heart are up for the task. It's time to simplify the process of healing. At Cornerstone Integrative Healing, we offer simple, effective, easy ways to prioritize your health and gain understanding. No prescription pad needed. I'm Kari, a pharmacist turned integrative health practitioner. I'm so excited to have these conversations around topics with my friend, Jenn.
Hi there, I'm Jenn, and together with our team at Cornerstone Integrative Healing, we offer an alternative to traditional healthcare, combining our expertise and experience in the medical field with our knowledge and faith to break the cycles of guessing what's wrong. We know the road to healing, feeling good again, can be overwhelming. You can expect honest conversations around the ups and downs of healing. The truth is, there are so many layers to healing. Because we've taken the time to learn where true healing comes from, we've learned how to help other women discover a different way of caring for themselves. Join us every week for new episodes as we discuss topics that are personal and pertinent to your healing journey.
Hey there, and welcome back into the Cornerstone Integrative Healing podcast. I'm Kari. I'm here with my co-host, Jenn. We are back in season 3. We just kicked it off with the last episode. We're in a brand new series called Barriers to Healing. And so we are excited to dig into the very first barrier to healing, and that's food sensitivities. This is something that I think there maybe is just a lot of misinformation out there, perhaps. So we're going to just help you to kind of understand why it's a barrier to healing and sort of more than need to know information. Then I know sometimes it can seem like such a big topic and one that can be kind of never ending too. We see that as well. I know it can be frustrating to feel like you literally can't eat anything. So we understand. So we're going to break it down for you.
Yeah. So, it's frustrating because sometimes, when we're talking to patients, we see the need to eliminate foods. And especially for conditions like Hashi's, right? With eliminating wheat, because the protein sequencing of wheat, the proteins in wheat look identical to thyroid hormone. The body can't differentiate. So it'll attack both because it's reacting to wheat and it can't differentiate. So, yeah, it's frustrating for people because sometimes we do have to tell them to lay off some foods. And I just want to real quick distinguish between food sensitivities and a food allergy. So we're not talking about allergies. Allergies can be anaphylactic in the extreme case where if they're exposed to the protein in the food, it causes an anaphylactic reaction. We're talking, this is a little bit more subtle. Food sensitivities are really a major piece of that is linked to what is called leaky gut, or intestinal permeability. So what does that mean? That means that the junctions or the gateways between the intestinal wall and the bloodstream have been damaged, right? And so this allows undigested particles of food to pass through the intestinal wall directly into the bloodstream. And when those proteins get into the blood undigested, the body sees it as a threat. It's foreign. It doesn't like it. Eating is an immunological event as it is, right? We're putting foreign material into our body. But when it's not broken down the way that the bloodstream would see it, so say, for instance, a protein is not broken down into its amino acids. So amino acids are the building blocks for protein. The body is alerted. So what happens when those particles enter the bloodstream is it causes this system-wide inflammation, right? The body's like, wait, hold on, there's an invader, right? And it basically stimulates then an immune response. Yeah. So when you have intestinal permeability or leaky gut and get this chronic activation of the immune system every time you're eating, what happens is it causes, derangement in the immune system. It causes the immune system to be hypervigilant. You produce histamine, which can cause hives. It can cause, skin irritations. This chronic activation, like I said, tilts the immune system more toward the adaptive system. So, right, those symptoms like allergy symptoms, and really decreases the innate system, because the innate system is the first thing that is activated. Our innate system is, the activation of those white blood cells to move toward the invader, right? That's the innate system. That's our first. And then the adaptive system will come online and say, hey, look, either I've seen this pathogen before and I have an antibody for it to combat it, or it'll say, I haven't seen this before. We need to make an antibody for it. And that's the adaptive system. And so what happens chronically over time is that you just activate that system too much and the body tilts toward that histamine response, that adaptive response. Now, when you have chronic inflammation in the gut with the immune, remember there's the gut-brain axis too. So if you have chronic inflammation in the gut, you're going to have chronic inflammation in the brain. Okay?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, what's going to happen is you'll get changes in your microbiome. You'll get changes in the mucosal layer, which is right below the microbiome. Also, so it's like a cyclic thing, right? You have this leaky gut that causes the immune activation, causes the brain inflammation. And so you just get this kind of cyclic thing. So we have found, just with our clients and working through a lot of my mentors, we have found that food sensitivities can be a huge piece of quickly bringing down inflammation in the body. So if you are sick, you have a cold or flu or something, if you are eating your food sensitivities, that's going to create a much harder time for the immune system to really get rid of whatever you're trying to combat, because of all the added inflammation that it's trying to combat in the gut. Now, remember, 70% of our immune system is also in the gut. We make 3/4 of our neurotransmitters in our gut. And so if there's inflammation, you're going to see changes in moods because of neurotransmitter issues and a bunch of other things. So I'm going on and on. So, Kari, do you want to talk a little bit maybe about the causes of leaky gut? Because I think these are important, because people really need to know how we can combat leaky gut, because all of us have some sort of leaky gut, especially as we age.
Sure. Yeah. And sometimes these are things that, we're not always going to stay away from. I don't want this to be like a never do these things list. However, I think that it's really just important to consider as a whole where you're at. Taking, sometimes it seems like, do I really need to eliminate a food for however long? It seems drastic, but if you really want to decrease the amount of inflammation and allow your body to heal, you have to do this. Like, it really is a super important piece to healing, because you think about it, your body only has so much energy to exert. And if it's exerting all of this energy trying to bring down this inflammation, trying to keep your body, if it's the immune system keeps getting activated, that's taking energy from your body that otherwise it would do other things, right? Other healing processes that it just doesn't have the energy to do. So I think it's good to look at it from that aspect as well. So some of the causes of leaky gut, obviously stress is a really big one. Nutritional and mineral deficiencies kind of go along with stress too, as well. Low fiber, high sugar diets. If you eat a lot of processed carbs, that can definitely play into this. Alcohol is something that can cause leaky gut over time. Even properly prescribed medications can, affect this, because they do cause, deficiencies within themselves, especially if you take them for long periods of time. NSAIDs is one particular OTC that can definitely cause leaky gut, because, I think sometimes we see OTCs as just like, oh, there's no problem with an OTC. I don't have to be prescribed these things. And so we just take them a lot.
Right. OTC is over the counter, by the way.
Right. Sorry. OTC is over the counter. So NSAIDs like ibuprofen or Advil, Motrin, that's more so what we're talking about here. With that, glycophosphates or chemicals are a huge cause of leaky gut. And a lot of times, especially something like wheat, we were just talking about this the other day, is heavily sprayed with pesticides. So sometimes it's not only the food itself, it's that it's heavily sprayed with chemicals. And so it's kind of a double whammy almost, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So that is why wheat is a big is a big stressor and is a very common food sensitivity.
Right. That's why a lot of people say they go to Europe,
Yeah,
because, Roundup's not allowed there. They might not, I'm not saying everybody, but they might not react
right.
there, um, as they would to the wheat here.
Yeah, and that's why. So,
Right.
um, two more antibiotics. Chronic antibiotic use definitely throws off the microbiome and can for sure cause leaky gut over time. And then methylation issues. We talked about that in the previous episode. Just basically how our genes are expressed. That can definitely cause and be a contributor, I should say, to leaky gut.
Yep. Yep.
Do you want to talk about the major? Kind of shift into talking about what are the major food sensitivities that
Sure.
we see a
I
lot?
think most everybody knows the major ones, wheat, dairy, corn, soy, um, I'm trying to think. Grains can be a big one. And
Legume.
again, I really think that depending on if these are GMO, genetically modified, or if they're sprayed, meaning organic or not organic, do play a part in how our body reacts.
Yeah.
So, an organic, non-GMO might have a different effect on your body. It might not. It really depends on the level of,
Right.
I think, intestinal permeability. But there's really 14 primary inflammatory foods, some that are perfectly healthy. But if you're reacting to them, you really do need to stay off of them for those 8 weeks. 8 weeks is about what it takes to lose the immunological reaction to a food. You really do need to stay off for those 8 weeks while you're supporting the gut intestinal permeability. So those are corn, milk, gluten, soy, peanuts, beef, tomatoes, chocolate, rice, nuts, sesame seeds, peas, eggs, sugar, and coffee. So you can literally, and I've seen it, drop inflammation in 2 days, getting
Yeah.
off food sensitivities. I mean, it really is drastic. Now, again, as we said, don't stop there. You don't stay off those
Yeah.
foods forever. The problem really is addressing the intestinal permeability. And there's lots of
Right.
things. Addressing intestinal permeability doesn't happen in a month or 2 or even 3, depending. I think for most people, their leaky gut is more extensive. It takes 6 months, a year sometimes, depending on where their nervous system is, depending how their sleep is,
Yeah.
how well that gut turnover happens. Now, look, gut turnover happens pretty quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're also dealing with, other things. Is the microbiome healthy? Right? We have to look at the microbiome. It's a major piece because the microbiome is what produces the mucogens or the mucus, help that mucus layer to really coat and protect those villi that we're talking about, those junctions, right?
Right.
So there's lots of ways to do that. If you're in an extreme case, I have used before personally and have recommended something called the GAPS diet, which a lot of you might be familiar with. It's the gut and psychology syndrome diet, which was developed by, I think, is it Francesca Nash? Natasha Campbell, sorry. That really was designed to heal those villi and to seal up those leaky guts. And the GAPS diet is an incredible diet. You can do what's called an intro to GAPS, and it's basically you start with bone broth, and you start with really simple, easy broths to basically drink. And you'll do that for a couple days, and then you introduce some really not starchy stewed veggies. And then there's like a system. You incorporate more and more foods. You can, add egg yolks if you don't have a sensitivity. So GAPS diet is one thing that can be used to really, there's good science around that for healing the villi. If you're wondering how you can identify your food sensitivities, I think a food elimination diet is a good way to do it. You eliminate a food for 2 weeks and then you reintroduce it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner on that 15th day. Now you can get symptoms for up to a week after reintroducing. So some people are like, oh, I don't really have any symptoms within the first day or the second day. But then the third day, maybe they're starting to get, they have the malaise or they have the headache or, what have you.
Yeah.
So you really need to give yourself a week between introducing new foods. And we'll link a food elimination diet and kind of how to, if you want to try it, in the notes. There's a process that you can, there's also obviously a food sensitivity testing. That really, it depends on your eating, if you're eating the food or not, right? If you're getting an immunological reaction to how accurate that test is. So I prefer, just because it doesn't really cost you anything, to do the food elimination. But anyways, the point is, this can be a major barrier to your healing because of how much inflammation it creates, because of the chronic immune activation that it's causing, inhibiting the body, really that window to heal, because it's using a lot of that your energy to really deal with those food sensitivities. So, Kari, do you have?
Yeah. So, I think it's important to note that eliminating foods should be done in combination with other healing modalities. It's like, I think sometimes we miss that. It's like they really should be done together, because if you're taking the inflammation off, right, you're trying to heal what was causing the food sensitivity in the first place. So hopefully that makes sense in more of like a big picture standpoint. And that's really how we strategically help clients personalize it to them, right? Like, we are doing this and this while you're off the food sensitivity to help heal what was causing it in the first place. And it's more of like a strategic approach that way versus like, let's just try to keep eliminating foods, because that just seems really frustrating.
Right.
And believe me, we're not a proponent of like, eliminating foods unless you have to, right? Like, we're a proponent of food freedom. We want to use food for enjoyment, for pleasure, for like fueling our body. That's what God gave it to us for. But I think that this is a part of the healing process. And so we definitely hope that you understand that in this context. And so let us know if you have any questions, though. We're always open to questions. You can find our contact information in the description of the podcast, and connect with us, however is best for you. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thanks for joining us on this episode. We're going to continue this series. So we'll see you on the next one.
If this episode has served you in any way, drop a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd love it if you'd share any aha moments or takeaways on Instagram and tag us at Cornerstone Integrative Healing.
And if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do so. We want to continue to walk this journey with you. Until next time, friends, know that we're praying for you.